TransCom. I think perhaps there may be a few housekeeping items to kick off the meeting. Can Rosie or someone from WFRC give us those items?
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see everyone in person. This is our very first hybrid virtual in-person meeting since 2020. So we're really excited to see everyone. Just a few little things. If you want to speak, please turn on your mic, and you'll know it's on by the green light that turns on at the foot of the mic. Otherwise, our participants online will not be able to hear you. Also, you'll have to speak directly into the mic so you can be heard. Otherwise, we won't be able to hear you. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And thanks to WFRC for hosting this in this combined format. We're going to give it a go during this meeting, and at the end of the meeting, we'll have an opportunity to give some feedback on how we think this combined meeting has functioned. So if you want to think about that during the meeting, things that you think are working well, things that you think would work better if we either all went virtual or all showed up in person, or how we might ride this new way of being, we'll have that on the agenda at the very end of the meeting. So with that, I'd like to move to the first item on the agenda, the action item of the February 23rd minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Adam Ginsberg with Cottonwood Heights, and I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second. Brittany Ward, Sandy City.
Thank you. And do we have any discussion? Changes, corrections, etc. Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed to approving the minutes? So that motion passes, the minutes are approved. And with that, we go to possibly the star agenda item of the entire year for this committee, which is the Transportation Improvement Program, including the staff recommendations and an opportunity for this committee to weigh in on the staff recommendations in passing it along for approval. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ben.
Thank you, Chair. Or Madam Chair, sorry about that. So welcome everyone. It is great to be with you today, both in a hybrid, well, in virtual and in real life. As you're aware, we have a big job today. We have a wonderful opportunity as we review several projects. If we can pull up the slide show number 1. Perfect. So in reference, as many of you are well aware, there may be a couple that are newer to this. So our process begins in the fall. So last fall, latter part of August, 1st of September, we sent out a request for letters of intent. Those letters of intent went out to all the local governments, including UDOT and UTA. They were returned back to us by the latter part of September, and then we did a real high-level evaluation on eligibility of projects. Following that, we requested from the potential project sponsors that they prepare and submit a concept report. And those concept reports were due back by the middle part of December. And from that point up until today, we've been in an evaluation process. So you can tell right there, we're at the tail end of March, as we will go through now with you the recommendations that staff will bring to you with each of the programs. Part of our evaluation period or opportunity is when we go out for field reviews. So in the Ogden Lake or in the Salt Lake, West Valley urban areas, those site visits were divided over 2 days. And as we meet the project sponsors on site, and these you'll know, or as you participated there, the past couple of years, we've had to do that kind of as a hybrid type meeting as well. We were out on site with a couple of individuals meeting with the project sponsors, and then we had most of the review team participate via the Zoom. So we were able to do the on-site evaluations or the field reviews, and then we've gone through all of the data. Today, as you will have opportunity to see multiple tables with a lot of information on them. That information is culminations of the data that we've collected, and it's the ranking based on that data. Now, there's a lot of things to identify a good project from. The information you're going to see on the spreadsheets, all that represents is the measurement of that particular data that we requested. So our sheets have been, we've sorted them so that those data points or reflects on what projects performed well from the data, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that was the very best project that we could go with the resources we have available. So I'm going to walk through, just so we don't forget and remember, each of the projects in each of the programs, but one at a time. So I'll start with the STP. We'll run through the slides, and then we'll go through the tables, and we'll give you a staff recommendation, and we'll discuss and review and modify or approve as is recommended. Then we'll go through the CMAQ projects, and then Kip will stand up and take care of the discussion. And then the TAP program or transportation alternatives, Hugh will take the lead on the discussion after I run through the projects. But here you can see, so maybe back up here. Well, not that far. This mouse does move fast. Unless you want to go forward. So let's just go to here. Well, should have left it. So we had 58 projects that we evaluated and reviewed in the Salt Lake urban areas. 30 of them were the STP projects, and that came into a total request of more than $140 million in STP funds. This year, we have a little more than 31 million to program. In the CMAQ program, we had 12 projects requesting just under 40 million, and we have about 6.3 million available to program. In the TAP program, we had 16 projects requesting with 7.6 plus million against an available 3.8 million, which is a lot more than what we've had in the past. So we're excited with the amounts that we had to program, but as always, we've got a boatload of really good projects and not enough money to accomplish everything we need to. So starting with the quick review of the STP projects, of those 30 projects, totaling more than 140 million, we have the very first project. Thank you, Rosie. The very first project that we have on the list is Cottonwood Heights, this Fort Union project between Pippin Drive and 3160 East, about 8/10 of a mile. This is to reconstruct with minor widening with shoulders, missing sidewalk and bike lanes. This project estimated at 5.7 plus million. Funds being requested is 5.3 plus million. The next project, yeah, the clicker's not working. Next project is a Draper, this on Fort Street. This is also reconstruct with minor widening between 132nd South and 138th South, 8/10 of a mile in length. Project estimated cost is 5.4 plus million. Funds being requested is 4.9 plus million. The next project is also in Draper City. This is on Pioneer Road. This is a reconstruct with minor widening on a 2-lane facility between 13th East and Highland Drive, a mile in length. Project estimated cost 7.5 million. Funds being requested is 5.9 plus million. The next project is a request from UTA. This is a first last mile project, the study and design on the Front Runner Station Highline Commercial Special District, essentially a bike ped facility. Project estimated cost for the design is 500,000. Funds being requested is 466,000 plus. The next project is in the Immigration Canyon. This is a slope mitigation project on 4909 East. This project's estimated cost 4.2 plus million. The funds being requested is 3.9 plus million. The next project is also in immigration. This is another slope mitigation project on 5647 East. Project estimated cost is 4.6 plus million. Funds being requested is 4.3 plus million. The next project in Immigration Canyon, this is a safety improvement to widen narrow areas of this facility, particularly between 60 to 65 immigration to 96, 98 immigration. Project estimated cost is 5.1 plus million. Funds being requested is 4.7 plus million. Next project is in Harriman City. This is for a new construction of a facility that'll go from 133rd 50 South to 132nd 50 South, just under a quarter mile in length. Project estimated cost is 6.6 plus million. Funds being requested is a little more than 6 million. Kern City is the next project. This is for the Utah Salt Lake Canal at 4015 West. This is to replace a worn out bridge there at 4015 West. Project estimated cost is 1.8 plus million. Funds being requested is 1.7 plus million. Next project is in Magna on 2700 South and 80th West. This is an intersection realignment. This project is estimated to cost just over $4 million, and the funds being requested is 3.7 plus million. The majority of these funds is to help in the right of way. The next project is in Magna on 2700 South. This is for a sidewalk project. This is between 80th West and 8400 West. Project estimated cost is a little more than $4 million, and the funds being requested is 3.7 plus million. Next project is a project in Midvale. This is for new construction on Tuscan Road. This is between 8th West to Holden Street. The project estimated cost is 6.1 plus million, and the funds being requested is 5.6 plus million. Next project is in Mill Creek City. This is on 1300 East, between 33rd South and 3600 South, just under a half mile in length. Estimated project cost is 6.9 plus million. Funds being requested is 4.9 plus million. The next project also in Mill Creek, this one here is a sidewalk lane on South Birch Drive. Estimated project cost is 763,000 plus. Funds being requested is 663,000 plus. Next project in Murray, this is on 5600 South, between 9th East and 13th East, just under a mile in length. It's to reconstruct and with minor widening. Project estimated cost is 8.5 plus million. Funds being requested is 7.9 plus million. Next project is a request from UTA. This is on the Mid-Valley Connector. This is for bus lanes on this facility along 4700 South. Project estimated cost is 29 million plus. Funds being requested is $3 million. The next project is also the Mid-Valley Connector, but this is to construct the Salt Lake Community College Hub in the southeast corner of the campus. Project estimated cost is 3.8 plus million. Funds being requested is 3 million. Next project in Salt Lake City. This is a reconstruction project on 900 West between North Temple and 600 North, 3/4 of a mile in length. Project estimated cost 7.6 plus million. Funds being requested is 3.5 million. The next project is a request from UDOT Region 2. This is on 7th East. This is for a ped bike use path between 21st South and 13th South. Mile in length. The estimated project cost is 2.9 plus million. Funds being requested is 2.7 plus million. Next project is a UTA front runner Warm Springs track relocation or realignment project. This project is estimated to cost $46 million, and the funds being requested is $2 million. Next project is the UTA West Side. This is for bus service on the 5600 West between the Old Bingham Station and the Salt Lake Intermodal Hub. Project estimated cost for these capital improvements is 5.3 plus million. Funds being requested is 5 million. Next project in South Jordan. This is on 4000 West intersection on South Jordan Parkway to add additional turn lanes and through lanes in each of the legs of the intersection. Project estimated cost 5.1 plus million. Funds being requested is 4.8 plus million. Next project also in South Jordan is another intersection project on Jordan Gateway. This is at Shields Lane. Also to address the turning movements. Project estimated cost is 3.8 plus million. Funds being requested is 3.5 plus million. The next project is a joint request from South Jordan and West Jordan. This is on the Old Bingham Highway. This is a widening from a narrow 2-lane facility to a wide 5-lane with curb gutter and shoulders and sidewalks. A little more than 1.5 miles in length. Project cost is 16.9 plus million. Funds being requested is 14.3 plus million. Next project is the project in West Jordan. It's along 1300 West for reconstruct and widening between 6600 South and 9400 South. This will address the intersection improvements and the through lanes and the bike lanes. This project estimated cost is 18.7. The funds being requested is 2 million. Next project in West Jordan is an intersection project on Redwood Road at 6720 South. This project is estimated to cost 873,000 plus. Funds being requested is 813,000 plus. Next project also from West Jordan is on 90th South. This is new construction. This will realign the new Bingham and straight and allow 90th South all the way through from 6400 West to SR 111 eventually. Project estimated cost 7.9 plus million. Funds being requested is 5.5 plus million. Next project is West Valley. This is on Parkway Boulevard. This is a reconstruct with minor widening from the existing 2-lane narrow facility to a widened facility. Estimated project cost is 13.5 plus million. Funds being requested is 12.6 plus million. Next project is a joint request from West Valley and Magna. This is a reconstruction with uniform or minor widening to create a uniformity on 7200 West between 3500 South and Coppers Hills Drive, a little more than 1/2 mile in length. Project estimated cost a little more than 7 million. Funds being requested is 6.6 plus million. Next project is a joint request from West Valley and Taylorsville. This is on 3900 South. Reconstruct with minor widening with the addition of AT components, sidewalk, bike lanes along this facility between Redwood Road and the Jordan River Bridge. About 1 mile in length. Project estimated cost is 7.2 plus million. Funds being requested is 6.7 plus million. And that is all the SDP projects that we have to review or talk about today. So Hugh's can I have one, Hugh? Thank you. So as Hugh comes around with this sheet, I want to explain a little how to read it. First and foremost is disregard the staple in the upper left-hand corner. So when you get the sheet, if you'll just pull off the top sheet, and then if you look at the front of the first sheet and the front of the second sheet, you'll be able to follow one project all the way across the sheet. So you have the project identification information down the left-hand side of the page, and then the criteria or the data as it moves across the page. So the score, if you were to look at the score for that project, project number 1 would be the 900 West project. You follow him all the way along over to the far right corner. In that upper right-hand corner, you'll see what the score is. So then when we move to the next page, if you tear off the second page and you turn over the second page and turn over the first page and follow them across, then you will see again how the project will go all the way across. Does that make any sense? So if you removed all the staples and you just spread the papers out on top, so you're looking at the first project. So you're looking at the first project, then all you have to do is grab the bottom of the sheet and just turn them over. And then you've got the whole next set going all the way across. Does that make sense? How's that for a little origami here in the afternoon? Do the folks online all have their tables?
Yeah, Ben, it's being presented currently,
Sweet.
and Mike also dropped the link in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Mike. All right, so we'll go down the table then and we'll tell you the staff recommendations. So starting with the first project there, the 9th West project is a reconstruction project between North Temple and 600 North. If you go across, you can see the amount that was requested was 3.5 plus million, and we're recommending an even $3 million for that project. The next project is 13th East on 33rd South to 3600 South. They requested 4.9 plus million, and we're recommending 3.5 plus million for that project. The next project, project number 3, is a project on 4000 West and South Jordan Parkway intersection. This is the South Jordan project. They were requesting 4.8 plus million, and we're recommending an even 3 million for this project. We're gonna skip project number 4.
Dan, could you repeat the recommendation for project number 1?
Project number 1 was 3 million.
I thought I heard 13.
Okay, are we good? So we're on project number 5. Project number 5 was requesting 6.6 million. This is the reconstruction on 7200 West. We're recommending 4.5 million. Then we're going to skip project 6, 7, and 8 and go down to project number 9. This is a reconstruction project in Murray on 5600 South. We're going to recommend 4.85 million. Then we're going to skip project number 10. And we're looking at project number 11. They were requested 5.6 plus million. We're recommending 3.35 million. Now you can turn those pages over. Skipping projects 12 and 13. Project number 14, which is the Utah and Salt Lake Canal Bridge there on 4015 West, requesting 1.7 plus million. We're recommending the full request at 1.7 plus million. Then we skip project number 15. And we go to project number 16 on the Mid-Valley Connector on the bus lanes. There was a request for $3 million and we're recommending $2 million. Then we'll skip down to project number 19 on 1300 West between 6600 South and 9400 South, the request for $2 million, and we're recommending the $2 million. We skip project number 20 and we jump to project 21. UDOT project requesting 2.7 plus million. We're recommending 1.5 million of the SDP for this project. Then you can turn the page. We skip to the next page down to project number 27. Project 27 is the intersection project on 27th South and 80th West. They're requesting 3.7 plus million and we're recommending 2 million. That brings us to a total recommended amount of $31,426,526. That would be the staff's recommendation in the STP program. For your discussion, any questions on projects, questions why we went where we went, or selected or recommended? Yes, yes. So project number 1, project number 2 and 3. Do you want the amounts also, just the numbers? Okay. Project number 5, project number 9, project number 11, project number 14, project number 16, project number 19, project number 21, and project number 27. Any questions?
Ben,
Yes.
Ben, I have one question, and I don't know if it could be verified in the time we have this afternoon. Project 14, the Kearns Bridge over 40th West. I'm thinking that Kearns may have got a direct appropriation for that in this past legislature.
On this particular bridge?
I think so, but I can't say for sure, and I don't know if there's anybody who can confirm that while we're here.
Yeah, it was for $2 million. And my understanding was that last somebody reported to me that had been funded, but I can double check, Ben, for you.
Thank
That
you.
would be good, Helen. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Okay. Well, it's always wonderful to hear. Any other questions?
Ben,
Yes.
don't know if you can hear me. John Miller here, Mill Creek. I noticed a lot of the recommendations were less than what was requested in federal dollars, all but a couple of them. Can you kind of go through the thought process of why the staff recommended less money than what was being asked?
Yes, thank you, John. So as you know, this transportation bill that just come out, the IIJA, we got a few additional dollars. We got some additional money on the SDP program, but all the project costs went up faster than the IIJA bill did. So we really didn't gain much ground on that. But the thought was, as we identified or went through the projects, is as always, we've got a full list of very good projects. And we wanted to get as many of these projects on the books, on the program to move forward. We know we're several years out, most of them. Some of them might come in sooner if they're available or they're ready sooner. And we can work with that, and that saves us money as well. But our thoughts were, if we could get a lot of projects on the program, get them moving forward, and there's several years for the project sponsors to identify other resources. We've got more now than ever opportunities through the county, opportunities through legislative appropriations to the local governments, and other federal opportunities on other projects. We've got discretionary bills that we want to help local governments address as well. I think Helen's got a group that's willing to help local governments identify those as well. But that was our thoughts, John.
It was already on. Ben, there's a question from Dennis Pay.
Thank you, Kid. John, did that answer the question? Essentially, we're just trying to get as many projects on the program and spread the funding out.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, John. Dennis, you have a question?
Yeah, Ben, related to that, one thing that we've seen on a couple of the projects that we have underway now and are getting ready to construct is, with today's bidding climate, we're looking at, I think that when, ours was approved on 5th West, I think it was a little bit less than what we had requested. What we've found as we approach bidding, it's become a lot less than what we requested. So has that been considered when, you're reducing the costs of some of these requests?
Yes, that as well. And so part of the other resource, and all of you know, as a local government, when a regional council approves the project, that has the stamp of approval or support of the regional council. We encourage the local governments to go and try to identify as many other resources of funding as possible. But when it comes down to it, if there's no other resources available for the project, then to come back and request for additional funds for the project would be very appropriate, would be appropriate for our program, for our discussion. It may reduce what we have an opportunity to program in the future, and we're looking out 6 years. But I guess, and we had staff heavy discussion on this about, you know, only programming part and saving other part for inflation and everything else. But my thoughts or feelings on, and I'll give a personal and anyone else can answer. I think if we get as many projects on the program and moving them forward, there's always opportunities to solicit other funds where we've seeded the pot, but also get projects moving so that if they can build earlier, they may be cheaper, less expensive. But then when all's said and done, this program is something we have to fall back on.
You know, Ben, this is Helen from Salt Lake County. You know, also this legislative session, 3 cities had the amount that they're receiving from the county of the first class highway fund that's held at UDOT. Those were increased. And another city actually was added to the list, Bluffdale. So that's also money that's accessible. And some cities have decided to go ahead and bond against what they receive to build infrastructure. So that's something to think about.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you. Trace.
You know, I think one of the things with the way you've done it, it also motivates city councils to, they've got a partial funding, so there's a motivation there in the cities to get the rest of the funding. So I think that's a good thing that you've done.
Thank you, Trace. So for those, if you couldn't hear, some of these mics pick up really good and some of them don't. Some probably wish mine didn't, but it does. So I got it. Anyway, so Trace said that also is a motivator for city councils and the local governments to prioritize or how'd you say it better, Trace? Can you maybe hold it right up and say it close? Thank you, Trace.
Just a reminder, our participants in Zoom can't hear if you're not speaking to the mic. Thank you. All right.
I didn't say it as good as Trace said, but
Ben,
yes.
do you know what the total is that was requested versus the amount that you're recommending funding for the projects that are funded? And the reason for the question, I don't have a project in this pool today, but if I'm funded at 50%, you know, I'm taking a little bit of a risk, and I applaud what you're doing. I think this is a great way to try to hedge inflation. And I think Trace's comments are accurate too. It gives us an opportunity to go look for more funding. But if the well just isn't producing, what's the likelihood of us being back in the same room this time next year and saying, oh, gee, we only funded 50% last year. Are we going to fund another pot of projects at 50%? And now we have twice as many that are only half funded. Or are we going to, as a body, say, you know, yeah, we made a commitment to our partners last year. We're going to forego some new projects and help make some whole from the year before. So I'm just curious, what is that offset right now? Just looking at my future years is what we might commit to next year and the year after.
Excellent point, Ben. So there's a couple of things to look at when we're forecasting like that. So where we're 6 years down the road, generally we start to work with the project sponsors about halfway when they start doing their environmental documents, and the numbers start to refine down a little. And then that refines even more as you work through the design. And unfortunately, I wish we could say every project that we're programming this year for 2028 would be constructed by 2028. But the likelihood by past records, that ain't gonna happen. So with projects coming in at different times, we'll address that with board modifications as necessary. We also have every year, so the projected amounts from the IIJA transportation bill is that there is a couple of percent in increase every year. We're programming a flat rate. And so every year we have those additional funds. And we look at this, we look at our program. Worst case scenario, we spread projects out longer than 6 years and they just sit out there and we get them as fast as funding becomes available. That's happened a couple of years when or several years ago, 2003 or 4, we didn't program projects because the program wasn't as big as it is now. And the likelihood of projects having cost overruns were high, so we just paused. And we didn't program new projects. But I appreciate the question. It is something that we watch close.
And there's always the fourth quarter. Are you making sure that that fourth quarter money is getting to your transportation budget and paying for projects? Because right now, you're getting double what the county's getting. So 0.10 is going to the county or to the cities from the fourth quarter. So make sure that that's something that you're able to capture for transportation investments.
Thank you, Helen.
Ben, this is Becca. I had a question about the process for asking for additional funds if you have a cost overrun, significant, even anticipated as you're headed toward your bid process. And that is, how does that work? I had heard something about that there's a certain amount that you can ask for without going through a more formal process. And then maybe there's something additional that you could ask for with a more formal process. And I'd just like to have a refresher on how those things work. Just from what we've been seeing as we have been putting projects out to bid, as Dennis was referencing on one of his projects, things are coming in way high. And, again, we are programming far out, but if this continues, I can kind of anticipate that there might be quite a number of needs to adjust budgets.
That's another great question, Becca. So when there's a request for additional funds, and several of you, we've had this conversation when we've had a need for additional funding, there are some things that we look at. One, we look at who is making the request. What's their track record? And we keep this more on a base by base, one-on-one type, not to embarrass any city or for any purpose, but for our purpose, we watch where or what's happened in that city in the past. We also look at the resources that city has and their availability. Do they just turn around and ask without doing anything? I know several of you just recently have turned around and paid big cost overruns, and we all applaud you. That's amazing, and we're grateful for that effort. But when all said and done, the council has supported that project, so that request comes in. If it's a substantial amount, there are times that we push back and we says, this will never fly because those board mods come back to this body. And you know your peers better than we know you. And so, and this body's even helped us in identifying or pushing back sufficient. We would have a request for 2.1 million and the TAC says, no, I feel all right with 1.5 million, but not 2. And so that's the number that we've worked with the project sponsor and we've walked back through. And so I don't know if that answers your question, Becca, but it's a little different with every city, but essentially that request comes into us and we evaluate it, we work with the city, and then we bring that information back to the TAC.
That's helpful. I think part of my question too was, are there any specific numbers that are breakpoints in the type of process? Whether, is it 100,000 or 500,000 or 1 million, or is there a different process for different amounts of request?
No, there's not. But I will say that sometimes if it's a very large dollar, there may be a strategy played that the WFRC will help with part of it and require the city to identify other resources to find the other part. And I think that's just good for the process. I think that's good for all of us.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have a question? I got a stretch too. No, I was,
Ryan Kump, Sandy City. As I think through this, kind of two thoughts for the WFRC and you, Ben. Is this trend towards partial funding also being communicated with the COG, with our mayors from WFRC? Is this a discussion point they've had, and are they aware that the trend right now and the goal is to fund more projects partially instead of fewer projects fully? And are they supportive of that? I ask that question because it's one thing for us as staff to go to our admins and say, we only got 60% of the money. Are you, Deputy Mayor, ready to go lobby for the additional funds? In some cases that might be yes, in other cases that might be no. But if our decision makers are receiving the same message that we are as staff, that might make it easier for us to sell the message of we can get some of our money from federal funds, but we still have to look for state or local dollars for the rest.
that's a great point, Ryan. And I would say in the past, we really haven't used this strategy as broadly as we are this year. And so all the decision that comes out of this body will be taken to the Salt Lake COG or COM, and we will present this information to them. We will present our strategy. And I guess in all said, 40% of, if 60% was funded for a project, I think 40% would be easier to find than 100%. And so helping our elected officials identify that if we can get something going to seed the process, then we've got that ability to move something along.
I agree. I think there's a lot of merit in what you're proposing. I just think that needs to be communicated, not just from staff, that's a decision and a direction WFRC is going with how they allocate the dollars to the COG. So the mayors themselves can provide feedback of, yes, this is a great plan. We'll get to work with our staff to identify other funding sources. Or if there's a lot of pushback at the administrative level, then maybe we curtail that trend. That's just my thoughts as I think through what I have to do now as a city engineer to chase dollars through my politicians.
Okay, so okay, Ryan, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you had stopped.
Were you done, Ryan?
Well, I was just, my other line of thought was, and you kind of addressed this is the first year you've really gone all in on this strategy, but there have been partially funded projects over the last couple of years, and we're seeing it more and more. And I was wondering if there was perhaps an update that could be given, like we partially funded 10 projects, 6 of them came up with money on their own, 4 came back, or something to that effect, so we could see how effective this has been in this past and how it's working out so far.
That's a good idea. Some of these, we may have to wait a few years before we give you a good report back. But yeah, that's something we can do.
I just wanted to follow up on Ryan's comment about coming before COG. You know, that actually, I mean, I'm happy to schedule that. That's not a problem to have that as a proposed agenda item that I put forward to the COG leadership. I don't control the agenda for COM, but it seems to me that this is much more of a discussion that needs to be elevated and a policy decision made at the Wasatch Front level about, you know, we're the technical advisory committee. This needs to go to TransCom, and then it needs to go up from there. You know, what sort of policy direction do the mayors and those committee members want to provide to Wasatch Front about how they fund projects?
True, Helen, but in addition to that, so our normal process is when the significance of the technical advisory committee is such that we bring all this information to you and the technical advisory committee makes recommendations. Those
When you say you mean to can you name the committee? To TransCom.
When I bring this information, we as staff bring it to the Salt Lake West Valley Technical Advisory Committee. When this body makes a decision, that information then is prepared to go to TransCom. In the meantime, we also go to Davis Cog, Wake Cog, Salt Lake Cog, and Box Elder and make the elected officials aware of what was recommended from the TAC committees, and we solicit comments from them.
Okay,
But
so I need to think about, because I haven't had you guys come before in the past to
Yeah.
present.
every year,
Okay, so I'll apparently be more aware of it this year then. Okay,
So,
If I may, sorry,
Uh,
if I may, Becca,
wait a minute. So John Miller has his hand up. Is that who is speaking?
no,
his
Okay,
opinion.
so John has had his hand up for a while.
go ahead, John.
I've spoken once, but I'll spoke again, and I like what Ryan said when he shared some of his reservations. Maybe a little addition to that. STP from a city engineering public director's standpoint is one source of funding we use to do occasional projects. All other projects, pavement preservation, are going up as well. And to fund, it's easy to say, try to find money to fill in the gaps. Well, all the projects, whether they're being funded by federal funds or other sources, we're playing the same, how in the world are we going to do these projects out there? I'm curious. I'm not saying I'm against partially funding them this year, but I do like the suggestion by let's have a report back maybe next year. It may be a couple of years to see what happened with this experiment, because I'm afraid a lot of the monies that we want to use, we're looking at that our entire budget and all the projects that we have to do, from pavement preservation to STP to fill in the blank project.
And Dennis Pay gives that a thumbs up. And I would mirror that. Although, and let me just say this briefly, and then we'll get to whoever it was that was speaking. And I apologize, I can't tell who is in the boardroom who is wanting to speak. I can only tell the people who are on the camera. So if you're raising your hand in person, I can't see your hand. Oh, hi, there's some waves. Thank you. So I just wanted to say too that, you know, federal dollars, generally you try to put as few local dollars or state dollars as match, because of the fact that the federal cost, anything that has federal rules attached to it costs more to construct. So if you can put forward a minimum match and still make your project, that is your best strategy in terms of maximizing your dollars. Let's see, are there other comments?
This is Wayne Benyon with WFRC staff. I was just going to add that just to supplement the previous conversation, that it depends on the timing of COG meetings as to whether we're able to visit them in person prior to TransCom meeting, and TransCom is meeting earlier than usual this year because of conflicts with conferences and other things that the elected officials are participating in. But so sometimes that outreach to COGS is via email, sometimes it's in person, but this has been excellent discussion, and encourage however much longer you want to keep going on discussion, feel free. But these points are being noted and are well taken. And I think communication's important, both with the elected officials as well as with reporting back. So thank you.
Okay, so this has been a good discussion. Ben, do you have any more before we move on to taking the committee's official perspective on this?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I would ask if we have a motion on this item.
I wanted to add one more thought too. I remember a few years ago, Ben, you encouraged us to apply with more projects and more funding to show that our need was great in order to get more funding dollars to these programs. I wonder if partially funding these projects is going to lead to either more applications or less, and inadvertently affect how much funding does come to these programs.
Good
So
point.
that'd be something that we should watch too.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
This is Keith with Midvale. I make a motion that we approve the recommended list that the Wasatch Front Regional Council staff is presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it with one caveat. Would we look at project 14? If it has been funded separately, that it drops from the list.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, so I think if we have a motion, then we need a second and then we can amend the motion. So
I'll second it and then I'll make that recommendation.
so then you have an additional motion. And your second motion is that we drop 14 from the list if it's funded through a different source.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion? Or do we need seconds at that point? I'm on Bob's rules. I don't know that I know Robert well enough.
Becca Trey Stokes from Murray City. I second that motion.
Okay, then can we have a vote on whether let's see, how do we do this? We're in a nested loop. So that means that we have a vote on the amendment before we vote on the full motion. Is that right? Or do we do it the other way around?
Yeah, some discussion on the motion first might be in order.
Okay, discussion on the 14 and or discussion on the overall?
Yeah, on the motion as amended. For me, I guess, is there a next down project that WFRC staff has that would be replacing that if it is available? Or are there some that the TAC wants to put forward? Or is there another one that we want to fully fund with that money instead?
Well, I think we should go back to the applicant and ask them, if it was funded, which I can verify, but, have them first withdraw the grant application.
Is that anyone?
And how would you prefer that this work from a procedural perspective? Do you want to just, what works from the staff side of it?
Excuse me, this is Shane Ellis. Sorry, I was on mute. I was trying to talk, but I'm Kern's engineer. From what I understand, this has been funded. The mayor, Mayor Kelly Bush, told me it was funded in the latest legislative session. So it is something I think we can withdraw from this application.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this is Wayne again with WFRC staff. As far as our preference, I think our preference would be to go ahead and invite the TAC to either not make any additional recommendation and just leave that 1 point whatever million on the program and not assign to a project at this point. Or if you'd prefer to add it to one of the other projects recommended, I think it would probably be, or to recommend it to a new project, I think it would probably be desirable to take action one way or another, or whichever of those three ways, and maybe there's a fourth or fifth option today, so that we can have something to move forward to and share with the COGS and take to TransCom.
Perhaps the fourth motion or the fourth suggestion is take that money and divide it equally among the projects that were underfunded. And then just put that little amount towards them. Since we're going through this experiment, because if you're saying to hold it there, you're basically going to try to make projects that are short whole eventually, when we know we're programming projects out 5-6 years that are already short. So perhaps just instead of funding that extra one, cut it by one and divide and then share it with the projects that are there.
Another thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Magna Township is kind of in the same wheelhouse as the Kearns Township. Is that correct or wrong? You know, that project was about 1.7 million underfunded. It could maybe go that direction, just a thought.
So what I am getting from this discussion is that we don't necessarily have a clean 100%, yes, let's go with the staff recommendation. I would just observe that. I think as chair, I'm not eligible to make motions. But if there are other thoughts out there about how to approach this whole ball of wax discussion in terms of another proposal to put on the table, maybe that would be appropriate. There seems to be a lot of concern about the strategy of underfunding. There's also some notes of potential support for that. But this is a more dynamic discussion than I ever remember having at this particular meeting. So maybe there are different choices that as a committee we could make.
Yes, Wayne Benyon here, and you know, up to the committee. Sounds like it might be worth. I mean, if Becca, if you want to call for a vote on the motion, then that's one option. Another option is for somebody to make another motion as per John Miller's suggestion, or as per Alma's suggestion, or as anyone else sees fit. So however the committee would like to proceed.
Yeah, we do. So we do have a motion on the table, right?
Correct.
And that motion, as I understand it, is currently to pass the staff recommendation. And we have an amendment to the motion, which we have not voted on, which is that if project 14 is funded through other means, and there seems to be an indication that it is, that is dropped from the funding list. I think I'd like to resolve first by saying, let's have a vote on the amendment. So I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor of amending the staff recommendation to drop 14 if 14 is funded through another source, say aye or raise your hand if you're virtual and muted.
Aye.
Aye. And I see 4 hands raised, 1 clapping. Any opposed? Dennis, are you okay? Do we have 1 opposed? Is that, I'm seeing a thumbs up from Bluffdale? No, okay, the thumb went down.
I voted opposed, but only because I feel like we need to clarify where that money would be transferred to.
Okay, so we do have 1 opposed.
That was my understanding, is that this isn't finalizing the recommendation. It was just saying that, yes, we would drop that one project.
Yeah, if you drop it, then it just goes into the pot unless you've designated what would happen to it. Okay, then we have a motion on the table currently to approve the staff recommendations. Do we have any further discussion on that?
My only point is that I think we should vote no on that at this point because we have the 1.7 million that we need to decide what to do with. And then we can have the clean slate for other motions as to what to do with that.
This is voice recognition. Is that Alma from UTA?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Um,
This is Dennis of South Salt Lake. I kind of like John's proposal. I don't know, I don't know what the proper way to go about this is, but I would like to see the motion amended to incorporate what John said, where we distribute evenly amongst those that are short, underfunded, I guess, or, there's a shortfall.
I think Dennis has just made a motion. Was that a motion to amend the staff?
Yeah, I'll call it a
distribute?
motion. I'll call it a
Okay,
motion.
that would help. Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion?
This is Chris Northern from Salt Lake City. I second that.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on that idea? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote on the motion that Dennis just suggested, which is dividing the excess funds, provided that number 14 is dropped, among the other projects.
And
Did I capture that correctly? Or hopefully someone who's taking minutes captured that correctly?
I believe the motion is to divide that equally among by the 1.7 divided by the number of projects that are currently recommended to be partially funded, not to allocate some of it to those that were recommended for the full
funding.
request
Yes,
they made.
yes, that's a good clarification. Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Leave it up. Aye. I see a total of 5 hands raised or clapping on the screen, in addition to the voice vote. Any opposed? Do I see 2 opposed? Is that correct? 1 opposed?
I think those are remaining from the 4.
Okay, I need to say, everybody put your hands down. Okay, then we are back to the original primary motion, which is the to approve the staff recommendation with those those 2 amendments. Do we have any further discussion on that?
Becca, I think the last motion covered that, did it not?
I didn't think so, but if others do, then I'm okay with that.
Dennis, it should have been an amendment to the first motion, and then it passed.
Also, Shane Greenwood has a red X, so does that mean he's opposed?
I don't know.
Gone now.
No, it's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we satisfied then to move on to the next topic of the CMAQ?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so we're into the CMAQ. Thank you, everyone. That was awesome. You're wonderful. Appreciate all that you do. So in the CMAQ program, there were 12 projects that requested an amount of 39+ million. Not working, Rosie. There we go. Thank you. The first project is Harriman. This is on the Porter Rockwell. This is a park and ride project. Project estimated cost is 4.2+ million. The funds being requested is 3.9+ million. The next project is a request from UTA. This is the Mid-Valley Connector. This is for the bus lanes along 4700. Project estimated cost is 29+ million. Funds being requested is 3 million. The next project is for the Mid-Valley Connector. This is to construct the Salt Lake Community College Hub in the southeast corner. Estimated project cost is 3.8+ million. Funds being requested is 3 million. And the next project is a UTA onboard expansion project. Says North Ogden on there, but it's actually southeast Salt Lake County. Estimated project cost is 7.5+ million. The funds being requested is 6.9+ million. Next project in Riverton. This is phase 1 of the Welby Jacob Canal Trail through Riverton. It's a bicycle and pedestrian facility, a little more than a mile in length. Project estimated cost is 1.3+ million. Funds being requested is 1.2+ million. Our next project is an expansion of the Green Bike in Salt Lake City. The project estimated cost is $643,000. The funds being requested is $600,000. Next project is a joint request from UTA in Salt Lake City. This is a downtown mobility hub project on 2nd South, somewhere between 3rd and 4th East. Project estimated cost is a little more than 6 million, and the funds being requested is 3.9+ million. The next project is a realignment of the front runner line through Warm Springs. This is an estimated project of $46 million, and the funds being requested is $2 million. The next project is the UTA West Side Bus Service Project between the Intermodal Hub at Salt Lake Central to 5600 West Old Bingham Highway. Estimated project cost is 5.3+ million. Funds being requested is 5 million. The next one on UTA, this is also the West Side Express. This is for operating cost over the next 3 years. This is 9.6+ million is the cost with the requested of 3 million per year for 3 years. Next project is an intersection project. This is a joint request from Sandy and Draper at 114th South and 7th East. The estimated project cost is 2.8+ million, and funds being requested is 2.6+ million. The next project is an intersection project in West Jordan on 7800 South and 6400 West. This is to complete a roundabout. Project estimated cost is 1.4+ million. The funds being requested is 1.3+ million. And that's all the projects in the CMAQ program. We'll turn it over to Kip to walk us through the discussion.
Thank you, Ben, for reviewing those. So to restate a few facts on the CMAQ projects, there were 12 projects that were proposed for CMAQ funding, totaling 36.6 million, and we have under about 6.4 million that is available. The CMAQ projects are a little bit different, that to qualify for CMAQ funds, each project needs to be able to demonstrate some kind of emission benefit. That's usually done by reducing vehicle miles or reducing delay. So we need to go through an additional analysis to determine what those emission reduction benefits are. And then the projects are ranked according to their benefit cost, the benefit being the emission reductions. So as you look at your list there, The column second to the right, shaded in gray, is a staff recommendation for funding of the projects that were proposed. Again, these projects are sorted in order of their benefit cost. So that's how they're ranked 1 through 12. Those dollar recommendations there in the gray are only that, a recommendation to serve as a point to begin the discussion. So this group is entirely within your rights to change those dollar amounts or the order of the projects, whatever suits your needs. But I'll give you a brief explanation why we identified some of those funding amounts. The first project, we have an
Hey,
intersection.
Kim, sorry to interrupt. Can we move the screen back down somehow? And thank you.
Okay, great. All right, the first project on there, the intersection at near the Sandy and Draper border, adding the dual left turn lanes gives us some significant delay reduction. And relatively speaking, the price tag was fairly small, so it had a high benefit cost. We recommended funding that at the full amount. The transit hub at Second South in Salt Lake City. We went through some iterations with Salt Lake. So this project came before the TAC last year. They were requesting about 2 million. We didn't have enough to go around. And so they're looking for the remaining half of that, what was requested last year to construct the sawtooth bus bays and the passenger platform for this transit hub on Second South. The third on there is the West Jordan intersection at 7800 South and 6400 West. They're proposing to put in a roundabout there to reduce the stop delay. And we recommended that at the 1.36 million that was requested. Fourth, we have a bicycle trail in Riverton. It's connecting a junior high school and a senior high school. There's significant safety benefits as well. And so we recommended that at the 1.3 million approximately that was requested. Then we skip over a number of projects. The Salt Lake Green Bike, we have funded several phases of that program in the past. And so we elected to not do that this year. The Harriman Park and Ride is a fairly small lot, and maybe we were feeling it was premature at this point, but maybe something we look at in the future. Then 7, 8, and well, there's 2 9s. 7 and 8 are 2 parts of the 5600 West Bus Rapid Transit project. One is for construction and the other is for operating costs. The when we're trying to look at the CMAQ funds, this is an example where you have a multi-phased large project. The whole price tag to put in that facility and achieve the emission reduction benefits with right-of-way and the rolling stock and the operation and building the busways is over 72 million. So we're using that figure and comparing that to the benefits that are resulting. So that was the large price tag was affecting the benefit cost, and it being such a large price tag, it kind of pushes the bounds of what's available in the CMAQ fund. The Mid-Valley BRT, likewise, the total price tag of over 32 million is stretching the bounds of our CMAQ funding. However, there's one element of that, and that is the transit hub at Salt Lake Community College, which in and of itself is kind of a standalone feature that has benefits and utility on its own, independent of this larger project to implement the bus rapid transit, the Mid-Valley Bus Rapid Transit. So our recommendation was to put the remaining funds towards that transit hub at Salt Lake Community College. The number 11, the on-demand service, we put that on there so you could see some of the evaluation, but UT had told us partway through the process that they weren't quite ready to pursue that. So we're just putting that on there for your information, but that project has been withdrawn. And the 12th one on there, the Warm Springs Road track alignment, is a needed project, but with the CMAQ requirements, it's not scoring very well that way as far as benefit cost, but it is something that is very needed for the front runner operations. So that is a summary of the staff recommendation for a CMAQ projects in Salt Lake, and turn the time back to discussion and motion and any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Ben and Kip.
I have a discussion point, Brittany Ward, Sandy City.
So okay, we can go ahead and do discussion. Normally, the way you do it is you have a motion, and then you have a second, and then you have discussion. But we can do it this way. Go ahead, Brittany.
There's an error on the first project. The funds requested is 2.6 million. Yeah, for the Sandy Draper project. So fourth column from the right. Ben, if you want to pull up your slides, the exact number was on there.
I think with Kip having run it through the evaluation, we'll have him pull up his tables.
Yeah, and I also have a question about the funding amount for Salt Lake City's second project on the list. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what's happening in the room. Are we doing some confirming on this question, or are we ready to move on with further action?
Kip was just checking some numbers, Becca.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question about the Salt Lake request. Oh, here we go. Okay, yep, I just got some clarification from our staff. I'm good. Do we have our clarification on number one?
On the Sandy, that's the form I had available to me. I'll need to double check what that's the form that was brought into the spreadsheet that was analyzing all of the projects. So I'll need to verify if that matches what was turned in. And sometimes we've had problems with the number that's used in the emissions analysis and what's in the concept report. Sometimes those don't match up. So at a little time, I can look at that if we need to do that before we move forward. That sounds kind of important. So
Yeah, so here's what I would like to suggest if this would work. I would like to have an understanding from WFRC staff as to if the committee does not approve this at this meeting for CMAQ, how does that affect your process rolling forward? I'm also noting that we have 7 minutes left on the agenda due to our robust discussion earlier. And therefore that we may not have time to get through, unless we do it very quickly, the items for TAP. So I'd like to have an understanding if we decide to table the CMAQ and move to the TAP, how does that affect your overall timeline and process?
First, if sorry, I don't know, we're all jumping to the mic ready. If we were to table the CMAQ, we would program no CMAQ projects this year. So it would totally table the program until next year. Something, and the other part, Becca, our agenda, we didn't put a closing time on this because of these meetings. So the agenda is an open end. We just were planning on dinner with you guys. But
the refreshments that good that I'm missing by not being there in person?
well, they're just rolling in the lobster now. But there's one thing that we could do if I will have to ask Kip on this one. If we pause this discussion and go to the TAP program and let Kip run and punch this through quick to see what the numbers would change if it changed in the ranking. The other part, leaving this up to Kip to direct the discussion, but if we approve the projects as is, what that would probably happen is we'd have to look at potentially dropping the last project on there or dropping another project if we're moving the priorities the same that they are, just eliminating, bringing the additional funds to the top. If that makes any sense. Kip.
Yeah, that would work for me. I can go and check these numbers, check what was submitted and make the changes necessary and see how that changes the ranking and come back to this group about what they want to recommend. Becca, you said you had a question on the Salt Lake City project, but you.
It's been resolved. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay, yeah, we did visit with John.
Yeah, yeah, I just got that communication. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that before, so. Okay, so we'll do that. I don't think since it's within the same meeting, I don't know if we need to do votes and everything about basically taking a pause on this. We'll come back to this and we'll move ahead with TAP.
I did spot the error, Wayne. It was in our application. I can show it to you and we can discuss offline.
Okay, so let's allow that to play out, whether that turns into a, I apologize, I wasn't sure who was speaking and whether you were in person there with Kip or elsewhere.
Ryan? So there is a discrepancy in the emissions analysis and the.
Yeah, so why don't we move on to TAP? Let's talk offline and then I think you guys move ahead with CMAQ after we visit really quickly.
Okay, thank you. Moving ahead then with TAP.
All right. Super. So in the TAP program, we have 16 projects that we're requesting a little more than 7.6 million for an available amount of 3.8 million. Not bad luck. So the first project there would be at Cottonwoods Heights, a project that's on Fort Union. This is a pedestrian hybrid beacon there, or a hawk. This is for safe routes to school. Constructing there just south of the school playground. Project estimated cost is $487,000. Funds being requested is $454,000. The next project is a request from UTA, this first last mile. This is a design of bike ped facility, essentially from the Draper Front Runner Station up to the Highline Commercial Special District site. Little more than 5.3 plus miles. Project estimated cost is $500,000. Funds being requested is $466,000. Next project is in Harriman City. This is for bike lane striping on Anthony Park Boulevard. This is between 118 South to 134 South. Project estimated cost $125,000. Funds being requested is just under $98,000. Next project is in Magna. This is on the Utah Salt Lake Canal. This is phase 5 of the trail construction between 3,500 South and 8,000 West, 1.25 miles. Project estimated cost $1.4+ million. Funds being requested is $1.3+ million. Next project is in Mill Creek. This is on South Birch Drive. This is for a bike ped facility between Upland Drive to 39th South. Project estimated cost is $602,000. Funds being requested is a little more than $502,000. Next project is in Murray City on 4800 South, under I-15. This is for bicycle lanes from Galleria Drive to 325 West. Project estimated cost is $880,000 plus. Funds being requested is $630,000 plus. The next project is in Riverton. This is phase 1 of the Welby Jacob Canal. It's trail improvements, bike ped facility between 126 South and 134 South. Project estimated cost is a little more than $1 million. Funds being requested is $991,000 plus. The next project is Salt Lake City Foothill Drive Penn Bikeway Safety Improvements. This is a design study plan between 13th East and Parley's Interchange. Estimated cost is $584,000. Funds being requested is $544,000 plus. Taylorsville City is the next one on 5400 South. This is to construct missing sidewalk between 1300 West and Mill Race Park. Project estimated cost is $600,000. Funds being requested is $559,000 plus. The next project is the West Jordan Primavera Trail. This is trail improvements between 7125 South to the Jordan River Parkway, about 1/10 of a mile in length. Project cost is $49,000. Funds being requested is $45,000 plus. Next project also in West Jordan. This is on the Utah Lake District Canal South. Wow. Anyway, this is between the Jordan Valley TOD near the track station over to McKaylee Circle. Project estimated cost $167,000. Funds being requested.
Thank you.
Plus. What was that? The next project in West Jordan. This is also this is the Utah Lake District Canal Trail North. This is the pave between the Jordan Landing Boulevard to 6200 South. Project estimated cost $177,000 plus. Funds being requested is $165,000 plus. Then we have the West Valley Crosstown Trail bike lanes. This is between 2700 West to Bangor Highway, a little more than 1.25 miles. Project estimated cost $1.7+ million. Funds being requested is $300,000. We have the next projects in White City. This is Onyx Lane. This is a Safe Routes to School project between Garnet Drive to Poppy Lane. Project estimated cost is $404,000 plus. Funds being requested is $377,000 plus. And the last project is a UDOT project on 7th East. This is a ped bike facility on the west side of 7th East between 21st South and 1300 South. Project estimated cost is $2.9+ million. Funds being requested is $2.7+ million. Any questions on the TAP projects? Awesome. We'll let Hugh take the discussion.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, folks. Same little trick that you did with the STP sheets, right? Tear off the staple and put them side by side. The front pages match up, and you flip to the back pages. And we'll just get right into this. Thanks, Rosie, for putting that up there. And the first project on the list Again, this is the 7th East SR 71 from 21st to 13th South. And in addition to the STP funds that were recommended, staff is also recommending $1 million to be added to that. So it'll be a total of 2.5 million from TAP and $1.5 million from STP on this shared use path along 7th East. Project number 2, the Cross Down Trail. Staff is recommending $300,000 on that project. Oh, I apologize. The different colors on the projects here, you see the blue or the light purple, however your color adjustment is, those are infrastructure projects. The green are safe routes to school infrastructure projects, and the red are design/planning requests per Ben saying earlier. So project number 3, Onyx Lane Safe Sidewalk, we're going to jump that one to project number 4, the Foothill Drive design request. And staff is recommending 300,000 of the 544 that was requested. Going to project number 5, staff is recommending the 155,694 for the Utah Lake Distribution Canal Trail Southern segment. Project number 6, going to jump over that. Project number 7, also jumping over that for the time being. And going to project number 8, Safe Routes to School in Taylorsville City, 5400 South Sidewalk Extension. Staff is recommending the $559,380 on that project. Next one is number 9, Anthem Park Boulevard Bike Lanes. Staff is recommending the $97,892 on that project. Going to project number 10, Fort Union Boulevard Pedestrian Hybrid Beacon. Staff is recommending the $454,030 on that. And then we're going to hop over project 11 and 12. We're going to jump over 13 and coming to 14. So this is I-15 and 4800 South bike lanes on Galleria Drive to 325 West. Staff is recommending $600,000 on project 14. Jumping over the Safe Routes to School, project 15 to project 16, and staff is recommending $300,000 for the design of the active transportation bridges over I-15 and Bangalore Highway for that project. So that gets us to the end of our list, and that is a total of $3.7+ million in recommended programming. So happy to open it up for discussion if that's okay, Becca.
Yeah, I have a question first, Hugh, and that is, do you have a column on your spreadsheet that indicates the staff recommendation?
No.
Okay, so, okay. At least for me, I would find that really helpful. I think Kip does that on his, and it would be really helpful to have those recommendations on there, because at least for me, I'm trying to scramble and like take notes, and I don't have it printed out because I just got it in an electronic format. I'm trying to save it as a PDF and then figure out how to add comments at the same time as you guys are like rattling through the numbers. And I don't know, maybe I'm just like not young enough anymore to do all this stuff on the computer, but like it's difficult.
We're really trying to get you to show up here, Becca, and we'll give you this nice paper coffee, and you can get a cup of coffee and a Danish and enjoy your time with us. No,
and then scramble and write it on in with a actual pen. Okay.
Point well taken. I'm happy to go back over those projects again and the numbers if that's helpful.
I missed 3 and 4. What was recommended on those 2 projects? Or not recommended? Maybe.
3, project number 3, that's the Onyx Lane Safe Sidewalk, no recommendation there.
Okay.
Project number 4, the Foothill Drive design improvements, 300,000 was recommended there, or is recommended there.
Anyone else need any clarification?
Yeah, this is Shane with White City. There's project rankings scores, or project scores. Some of the projects that ranked higher didn't receive recommendation for funding. Just what was the determination for what was recommended for funding versus others?
Yeah, good question, Shane. Thanks for bringing that up. And I think Ben spoke to this earlier a little bit. The scoring that we have here is obviously one of the factors that we consider in addition to things we see on the field review, other funding sources that are coming into projects. And so for the Onyx Lane Safe Sidewalk in particular, I think the big decision point was the fact that Onyx Lane itself sort of dead ends on either side after about 3 blocks or so. And so there's not a lot of traffic on Onyx Lane. And therefore thinking that putting some of this funding to other places where the safety benefits seemed a little bit higher, specifically to that project.
Could you just give the numbers again of just the recommended projects, please?
You bet. Project number 1 is 1 million. Project number 2, 300,000. Project number 4, 300,000. Project number 5, 155,694. Project number 8, 559,380. Project number 9, 97,892. Project number 10, $454,030. Project number 14, $600,000. And project number 16, $300,000.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, moving to action. Can we start with a motion to approve the staff recommendation? Does anyone have that motion?
Before the motion's made, do we need to know what's happening with the CMAC? Because it may affect one of the projects in this one, in the TAP.
Yeah, so make sure everybody heard that. Trace with Riverton's asking, without knowing the resolution on the CMAC, can we make can this group make a determination on the TAP projects? And it's a fair question, especially as Riverton's trail project is in both programs, right? And I think on your CMAC sheets, you'll see that it is recommended for funding on the CMAC side and not on the TAP side. So. And I'm not here to answer that question, right? That's for everybody, Trace. That's not me.
And I guess I don't know what order of things is preferred by the staff that has been working to prepare this recommendation.
Well, this is Kip. I have the updated analysis for the CMAC. I don't.
Okay, so we're ready to go with that discussion. So we're gonna do a little bit of weaving here. Is that the idea?
What was the question again?
Are we okay to, from a staff perspective, Hugh, are you okay if we go back and CMAC and then go and do TAP?
Oh yeah, whatever the group
Okay.
wants to do, no problem.
Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, CMAC.
Okay, so we found the discrepancy in the dollar amounts in the Sandy project. They were different on different forms. So the Sandy is informing us the total project cost is not 600,000, it's 2.8 million, and the amount they're requesting is 2.6 million. That's considering their local match. So when we run that benefit cost analysis, instead of a 112.5, it comes out 19.1, which makes them the second highest ranked project, but by a much different score. And the big change then is there's roughly $2 million over programmed the way those numbers are on there right now. So that's kind of what we need to do as a group. If that Sandy project, instead of 400 some odd thousand, is now 2.6 million, then that's an additional 2.2 million. And you go down the list, that down there at the bottom, we had a similar amount, 2.3 million for the transit hub. So that's the disparity in the recommendation. So I don't know.
Could we scroll down the screen so that we can see what the bottom says, or change the?
Yeah, I added another row underneath. You can see where it shows the recommended amount, 8.4 million. Well, we don't have that much. So right underneath that, it's showing that we're over programmed with the way that's listed right now by 2.1 million. So of those recommendations that the staff had, we need to reduce that by 2 million or more, 2.1 million.
Okay.
So there's a number of ways to do that.
What would that do? This may be towards UTA. What would that do to Alma in that request if that last item, that ninth recommended, or 2.3 for the I can't read, it's too blasted small. But if we just drop the lowest one off the list.
We're trying to put as much funding together for that project as we can. The small starts rankings came in from FTA, and they were not at the level that it was able to be funded this time around. We're working through those numbers and fine tuning the ridership. Some other folks here at WFRC probably know more about that than I do, not in this room. Some of the people with the modeling and such have been working on that. So it kind of goes towards the whole project. It would be a portion that we don't have right now. And a lot of this project we don't have right now, but we're working on getting as much funding as we can.
Yeah. So to clarify that, Alma, you're looking for federal funds, and this is federal funds, so this wouldn't be used as match, but this would be part of your funding package.
Yes, that would be part of the packet. So we'd have to find other local funds or increase the federal ask, which increasing the federal, the other federal, the small start dollars probably wouldn't be very beneficial to our rating.
Yeah.
Ryan with Sandy. As this is a joint application with Draper, I'd be looking for Todd to confirm his thoughts on what I'm about to say. But the error we did find, it was a Sandy City error. We didn't have our forms cross-referenced properly, so Kip just put in what we gave him. With that said, in our previous conversation about partially funding, and if we partially funded ours, it would only be about $500,000. That really isn't enough for me to get good traction. I would prefer to voluntarily defer this project and reapply next year with a corrected form and allow the committee to decide how to utilize that extra $500,000 that would be left. And then hope for a full funding next year if it still scores well.
This is Todd Hammond with Draper City. We'd be okay with that.
Or does it help to program it now, understanding that you would ask for more money next year?
Personally, I'd like to try to avoid that so we all aren't coming back with the same project multiple times.
And I'd just like to mention on behalf of Wasatch Front, we found a discrepancy in the forms. That's something we should have caught some time ago with all the reviews, but things like this happen, so.
What would happen if that money went towards the green bike program that's asking for 600,000? What if they only got 444? Could that project move forward?
I could speak to Green Bike. Yes, they could change the number of bikes that they're purchasing for the station or the number of docks that they're planning to slot for the station. This was a request for 2 stations with quite a number of e-bikes. And so I think that they would be able to use a smaller amount, at least in my understanding of the program. I know that Kip has worked directly with Ben with Ben Bolte on this. So Kip may have that perspective as well, but from what I know of the numbers, we could do that.
Becca, I'd be willing to make that motion when discussions are done, unless there are other ideas that would be tossed around. And that would be to take that money at Sandy's relinquished and put them towards I have it number 6, the Salt Lake City green bike program, in the amount that was previously dedicated towards the bikes. Not the bikes. Boy, I just messed that up completely. Towards the Sandy Draper project. I can re-say that again if you want me to as well.
Yeah, I was confused if the motion was,
John, did you mean number
We
5?
don't have any motions yet.
What I'm thinking, if I were to make a motion, let me say this
You
again.
were
Your
to make a
first
motion.
AQ rate, Ryan from Sandy said he would like to postpone that to next year, his application. And I would propose to move that money towards the green bike project, although they're asking for more, but to give them that 444. It's a lot of 4s.
Do we have the ability to play dynamically with our spreadsheet here so that we can see how the numbers add up? Can we make another column for the spreadsheet and say, and we can call it something like committee tinkering?
well, we can do that in the yellow column. That's what it was for. Do you want to?
Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. Okay, then let's, whoever is manipulating the spreadsheet, is that Rosie or someone else?
I think that's me. I've got a microphone at the table too.
Okay, can we, okay, because there's a little thing up on my screen that says Rosie, so that's why I thought maybe that, but that's whoever is projecting this screen, if we can add in some of our, what we're playing with here. So then are we reducing that to 0, or there was another discussion about reducing it to 1.5, but maybe not, I didn't catch that correctly. Okay. I'll just wait.
Is that accurate?
You can't see the lower part of the screen.
Okay, I'll scroll down.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't move this one. That doesn't look good. How do you make him go away?
I don't know. Maybe click on this little arrow
Hit
down there.
escape. Hit escape.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, no. Hi, Microsoft Edge. Nice to see you too. Okay, so that's the same 6.3 million we proposed before. It's just applied to different projects.
Okay, so
And the 444 number, I think, is an obvious repeat of fours because it was a placeholder value that sits on the blank forms that are provided. I think that's what happened. Sometimes they're 999s. Yeah, I think that's what
So we should be suspicious of repeating numbers. It's not just the sixes that can get you in trouble.
yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Chair, back
now
to
we
the
have two
motion.
things we could potentially have motions on. We could have a motion on the staff recommendation with the adjusted amount. We could have a motion, which is basically the John Miller motion, which is in column P, the yellow column. What is the committee's pleasure? Does anyone want to make a motion?
This is Alma with UTA. I will make John's motion for him and let him second it. I motion that we approve the TAP funding as currently shown in the yellow column. CMAC funding, thank you. As currently shown in the yellow column, which is per staff's recommendation, except for the funding of $444,444 that was on project 1 is applied instead to project number 5 to expand Green Bike.
John, would you like to second your motion?
I would like to second that eloquent phraseology of that motion.
Excellent. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we see a few hands up too electronically. I see at least 4. Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, I don't see any hands up. Okay, that motion passes and we can finally move on to TAP again. Thank you everyone for bearing with this longer process than usual. Okay, so returning back to TAP. Do we have a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
Becca Trey for Murray City. I'll make a motion to approve the Wasatch Front Regional Council staff recommendations for the TAP funds.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Kobe Wilson, West Valley City. I'll second it.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, did I hear something?
No again, 2 times.
Then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
So it's 2 hands virtually, 3 hands virtually. Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes. As we are, before we leave this, let me just say thank you for the very dynamic discussion and rolling with all of the challenges of conducting business with those various changes and controversies, etc. This is definitely the most exciting meeting I have been at with this group. So, and thank you for your patience with me as I negotiate the more fine details of the rulemaking or the rules of running a meeting. I am thinking that as we are half an hour past our current meeting time, that perhaps we can ask Midvale City if it would be agreeable to hear a presentation at some future meeting.
Agreed.
Thank you. And apologies for the delay with that. We do have a couple quick items of other business. One is that I understand from Ben that there is a conflict with our October meeting date. And so the committee will decide at a future meeting whether it is preferable to meet the week earlier on October 2nd. There is no September meeting, by the way. Or if it's preferable to meet on October 19th. For those of you who may have kids in the school system, somewhere in that general timeframe, there is going to be a couple days off school. So if that matters in terms of your participation, maybe check your calendars and figure that out before our May meeting so that we can set when the October meeting will be. I also wanted to know, how did this virtual format work for all of you? Any thoughts, comments, or reactions on it?
This is Keith with Midvale. Personally, I think it was a little awkward. I think maybe this meeting next year, we ought to all meet in person. Seemed to be a lot of confusion and a lot of who's doing what with it being virtual and in person. So I would say next year, especially this meeting, is an in-person meeting.
Okay, virus willing.
This is Shane with White City and Kearns. I attended virtually and I thought it was fine.
Okay, any other thoughts or reactions? For chairing it, I found a little bit challenging between, not quite sure what was going on in the room sometimes, but not too bad given the level of discussion that we had. So I think for a less exciting meeting, this would roll just fine. But we can have further discussion on it because we have a whole year before the next one of these. A question I think is, can we go with a virtual perspective of, a hybrid model for the next meeting, or do we want to pick one or the other?
This is Ryan with Sandy. I think if it's just presentations and informational, the hybrid's okay. I think if we've got significant voting items like today, maybe we can run a hybrid, but in order to be a voting member, you have to be in person. I think it gets too hard to track. There's no way we could pay attention to who actually raised their hands online. And I think for the level of communication we're having, it's better to all be in the same room. That's my opinion.
Okay. All right.
I believe the northern area is going with just virtual meetings for the normal next few meetings, or am I remembering that incorrectly?
I don't recall. I wasn't sure if we actually resolved that at the morning meeting. There was some discussion both ways.
Okay.
Personally, I like it just for the travel time. I'm working on a raise grant. I don't really have 20 minutes each direction to come head down there. So, okay, well, I think let's try it with a more normal meeting topic, maybe next time for doing the hybrid. And unless it's too much of a burden for WFRC to host again. How are the refreshments? If the refreshments aren't good, maybe we just go virtual. I don't know. I'm just joking. So do we have any motions about how we would like to meet? Does anyone feel strongly to make a motion for next meeting, for the May meeting? That's one we really need to decide about.
Madam Chair, just want to let you know that there are some items in the chat box. So Dennis said he personally liked the meeting format. He had no problems with it. And John Miller said he appreciates the hybrid meeting. And Carrie is asking for a copy of the meeting minutes, which will be sent out before the next meeting. That's it.
Yes, thank you. I was reading those, but I realized the people in the room maybe not are reading those or not seeing them. Okay, there's no preference from the committee. Okay, how about a motion to adjourn? We'll meet somehow in May.
Second. Oh, you want me to make a motion to adjourn? I motion that we adjourn.
Okay,
Maybe quick before everyone signs off, just hats off to Trace is retiring there. We want to just recognize him for all the years of all his service.
Tomorrow.
Can we reject that motion to let Trace retire?
Our next meeting will be without a trace.
I thought it was leave no trace behind.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Becca. Wonderful job considering